some guy handed me a joint, and I went out on the rocks, out on the rocks by the bay, and lit it up, and I looked up, and there was a cop standing right there, and I blew out my exhale, and the cop didn't do anything about it, and I was like, damn, we are in another new world here, right?
Yes.
And I tell you, that first joint that I smoked, it was like my old friend was back. It was like the pressure in my head lessened. It was like, I relaxed into it, and it was like, oh, this is what I've been missing, right?
Yes.
And I don't go to Mexico and Canada to get my painkillers anymore. I just stay medicated.
Leaf Life.
Welcome to the second half of this Leaf Life show called The Unlikely Journey. In just a moment, we'll talk about surviving to thriving in the weed game, and we'll spin AJ's wheel to see what product SHAWN DENAE WAGONSELLER, who's the CEO and co-owner of Washington Bud Company and is on the executive board of the Washington Cannabis Alliance, is going to be hitting next. So go ahead and spin that wheel, AJ, and let's see what we got.
All right.
Spinner, spinner, spinner. Spinner, spinner, winner.
Not a salad spinner. It's a wheel.
Y'all, we've got some rainbow runts. Ooh, honestly, I really like the run strain, but I like it because of the effect it has on my being. Like, it makes me feel very creative.
Far out.
And so far, if I go to it when I'm about to write, it's the one. It's like energizing, kind of opens and expands my mind, calms my body. Yeah, and these nugs are beautiful. Check those out.
Let me smell that.
Mama Chan Farms.
Mama Chan's
nice.
Farms.
That
rainbow
smells like good weed.
runts. Looks like a straight up kush. Smells like a kush with some sweet candy hits. And I'm going to drop it in my re-stash.
Bada bang, bada boom.
All right, so let's light this up, sis.
All right.
Look at you guys going big
Okay.
on some flour.
Old-fashioned matches even.
And I love this, who made this piece for us, y'all?
That's Danielle Guthrie,
This is a nice
glass
piece.
blower, and that's about 3 years old. Her work is evolved.
A Daniel Guthrie piece,
It's
yeah,
very timeless.
definitely.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Nice.
Go ahead and pass
Bob.
out this way, AJ.
what
when
is
you're
that?
done.
What does that smell like?
Yeah, let's get a little stoned. Wes, what do you say?
That's a rarity.
Fucking A.
For
Give it to
Ricker.
Sean.
Send it to Ricker.
Let's go, OG.
I'll hit some Mama
Dude,
Chan's.
so the thing about it is you can really taste the kush on that. Is it still going? You might have to light it.
It's gone.
Do you feel like you could really taste those like diesel kush notes?
I taste the sweetness in it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I'm picking up.
Yeah.
Surviving
The
to
Girl Scout.
thriving. We talked in the last segment about how difficult it was to get to 2010. You even switched careers. You gave up on cannabis.
Yeah.
But then, things started to change. And now here we are. This is 2014, and you guys are kicking ass, and you're about to double your canopy, right?
This is 2024.
I know.
Sorry, I just got high.
Well,
Yeah,
then
add another decade. Yep.
you said you realized that weed was helping you medicinally. So you started 2010, that was still medical. And so you got in at that time with a patient focus.
Right.
And that's really led Washington Bud Co.
Yeah.
to now. And you've stayed consistent with that. And that's one of the things I respect about you and Bill the most is that you've stuck to what you said you cared about.
Yeah.
And so many people in the 14 years have compromised or cut, corners, and they're not here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it's staying true to the patients. And that mission is a big part of why I believe you're still here and why we're here at the Leaf.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we've stuck to
The
it.
medical patients, yeah. And I didn't know anything about medical marijuana back in the late 80s when we got busted. When in the 90s we shut down our garden because of the DARE program. Our fifth grader said we were criminals and had to turn us in. So that scared the shit out of us. So we just shut everything down, stopped smoking weed. And my health just started to take a dive. I didn't realize that I'd been smoking medicinally for all those years. I just knew it made me feel better, right?
What
And
brought you back?
Yeah, 2010. Tell us about the comeback.
Yeah, well, we'd been going to Canada and Mexico to get painkillers for me. And in 2010, we walked into HempFest for the first time. So completely stuck out like a sore thumb. We were just off the golf course. So we were dressed
Seattle
in...
Hemp Fest.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So we were dressed like golfers, not like hippies,
But very inclusive event, right? There's
Right,
people
they're
of
very
all
inclusive,
different types.
right? And some guy handed me a joint, and I went out on the rocks, out on the rocks by the bay, and lit it up. And I looked up, and there was a cop standing right there, and I blew out my exhale, and the cop didn't do anything anything about it. And I was like, damn, we are in another new world here, right?
Aha moment.
And I tell you, that first joint that I smoked, it was like my old friend was back. It was like the pressure in my head lessened. It was like, I relaxed into it.
stories.
And it was like, oh, this is what I've been missing, right?
Yes.
And I don't go to Mexico and Canada to get my painkillers anymore. I just stay medicated, and that's what
beautiful.
I smoke. That's what I do.
Yeah, such a real, true, authentic story all the way with the cannabis as wellness, as a wellness product. And all of us learned this plant through the patient program, and most of us were patients of this plant, and I believe most people are actually because of how the endocannabinoid system works.
Fascinated me to learn about the endocannabinoid system. I mean, I was grabbing all sorts of books, any kind of books that were written on the subject, and learning about all of that. And then I started writing blogs and writing for national magazines and, all sorts of stuff. There was just a lot of startups back then that aren't around anymore. So good job, Northwest Leaf, for being here.
Yes,
Leaf Life Podcast.
thank you.
Well, 2010 is when Northwest Leaf began with Wes, straight out of college.
Yep.
Now we publish all over the country, and we're legitimately the largest published cannabis magazine in the world.
Yes.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo.
It's
Amazing.
never easy, Sean.
Yeah,
But for you in 2010, when you guys decided to enter the cannabis industry, what did that look like? It had to be, seem a little daunting at the time. Is this really happening?
Yeah, well, we lived in Shoreline, so in a suburb of Seattle, and Bill built a garage out in our backyard of our main house, and then we got a rental house, and our son was living in that, and built a garage back in that, so they were our grow garages. And I started getting involved in the cannabis community, going to any meetings that I could. We had a hotline for anybody that was raided. They could call the hotline, and there was always somebody on there. Cannabis Defense Council, that was the first advocacy group I was part of.
The
CDC.
CDC.
That's right.
I used to go
You
to those
remember
meetings.
that,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Yeah.
And then eventually it legalized, and you had a chance to go from medical to recreational. And a lot of people didn't make it. Either they couldn't figure out how to get a license, or they didn't want to participate for different reasons, but you carried that through.
Yeah.
When did you switch into recreational?
Well, in Washington State, the law passed in 2012 and was effective in 2014. But the medical marijuana program continued until 2016.
Correct.
Until June of 2016.
End of June.
We rode medical all the way. And all during that time, then I was able to see what kind of packaging was on the shelves, talk to bud tenders. We'd already done all the R&D for medical on our strains, so we knew we had solid strains, and found out what people like to smoke, right? But I was able to do a lot of work on packaging and a lot of R&D on that. And so medical ended June 2016, and we were on the shelves in 502 legal stores in July of 2016.
And you're still running a lot of those same strains, like the
we
Sky
are.
Master is one of my favorites.
Right.
Oh, man,
Blackberry
yeah.
Kush.
Yeah.
And there's demand for those
There is.
consistent strains.
Yeah.
I love the new Runtz and all the new crosses too, but consistency and focus on growing methodology is so important.
Right. And, like this Pure Kush I've got here. So this came up with a library of clones from Kevin Jodry's Wonderland Nursery in Humboldt.
Okay.
So in 2014, he sent up a whole library. And it
Nice.
was January, and it was cold. And when they showed up, they were tiny, itty-bitty little clones, hardly had roots. And they had powdery mildew all over them, every single one of them. And Pure Kush is the only one that was able to survive the powdery mildew of the Pacific Northwest. And it's just a real solid OG Kush.
Powdery mildew, very common for you that have never grown or understand how cannabis is grown. It probably is the biggest problem in growing in cannabis. It's hard to cultivate sick plants, and sick plants get sick when mildew starts eating them.
Right. And up here in the
very
Pacific
wet.
Northwest with our humidity, it's like keep those dehomes moving.
Yeah.
But you guys have stuck to it. And I know for a long time you grew with those medicinal practices, with as close to organic style practices, but there wasn't a way to really differentiate. And now, because of the work of the Cannabis Alliance and other groups, including you, we have this DOH, Department of Health certification, which is now a label that does differentiate.
That's right.
In a good way. Because before that, people could put something on their packaging and there was no kind of accountability for it. And there were companies that would say 100% pesticide free.
Yeah.
It became a very catchy phrase. And then people would go drop off a sample at a testing lab and find a bunch of icky stuff. And so you helped push that. And now it's proven that there is demand for those clean products. It's not just the cheapest products with the highest THC, but people care about what they're consuming.
Yeah, like I said, whether you smoke it for purpose or pleasure, everybody's health matters. And you want to smoke clean weed.
Yeah.
So.
And I do believe you touched on it earlier, AJ, that all use is medicinal. And I felt that from the beginning with cannabis because it makes you feel better. And, you know, I'm about 2 years alcohol free right now.
Good for you.
And I always really enjoyed alcohol. And it never made me feel better.
Yeah.
Like it makes you feel good for a little bit.
Until the next morning.
It doesn't make you feel better. It makes you feel worse.
Yeah. I say
cannabis is the opposite.
It's like two sides of the same coin. If you're smoking or using for medicinal purposes, you're going to get high. If you're smoking to get high, you're going to get some health benefit. You know, it's just hand in hand to me.
I agree. And coming from medical, that is a different understanding than some of the newer operators today who have come in since it was legal with big funding and they're just like, oh, this is a consumer packaged good that they just want to sell. And it really seems to me that the people who care, that the craft growers, the people with, you know, the plant's interest at heart are doing better than the corporations. And that's not in any other industry.
Right.
In every other industry, corporations win because of resources and scalability.
Wow.
And yet here we have small businesses still thriving. And we're very blessed. And you guys are a wonderful example of that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, you know, I think a lot of that is because they really opened it up wide here. I mean, anybody that wanted to grow, $250 to put in your application. There were over 2,700 of us that put in our applications, you know, within a very short time. That was halved, right? And then it was halved again. And now we figure there's less than 500 of us selling into the market and paying taxes. I mean, that's how we
No.
you know, who's ever paying their taxes is, you know, making some commerce. So,
well, and it's the people who care.
Yeah, and we're very proud to be among that group. You know, I love what I do. We live on a 10-acre beautiful farm an hour north of Seattle.
I brought my family there to tour
I met
your facility,
mom.
and my aunt, my cousin, my sister, all the ladies in my life. Gosh, about 4 years ago, maybe 5, I took them to Washington Bud Co. because you and I have a good relationship, and you know, it was a real moment for us as a family. You know, now my aunt isn't here any longer, Aunt Shirley, beautiful woman, and their first time in a cannabis grow, and it's very difficult to get in somebody's grow. They're not usually like, come on, bring your family.
Right.
But
right.
You were gracious enough to open your doors, and it was a moment I'll never forget, Shawn. I mean that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
true.
sweet. We give tours of the farm every month. We harvest every 4 weeks, and the week before harvest, I open up the garden and invite bud tenders and buyers and store owners and friends. And, you know, I've even had House of Representatives up there to the farm. And I like to have people come up and really smell the flowers.
Open door policy.
Thank
and you know,
you.
that's a huge reason why Washington Bud Company is thriving in the state of Washington. You really have turned this adversity from the beginning of getting rated and berated into thriving in the very first state to legalize cannabis officially. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like I am finally doing what I was meant to do on this earth.
Awesome.
It's just very, very rewarding to walk in to deliveries and have bud tenders go, yay! I had somebody tell me that I should wear a cape because I just came in and saved the day.
Oh,
isn't that
I love
sweet?
that.
Shawn, we love you. We appreciate you
beautiful.
at The Leaf. You've been a huge advocate for cannabis and the cannabis industry here. And everybody knows you. You're a leader in this industry. And it's truly, truly a privilege to have you here on the show with us, sharing this vibe as we continue on this next phase into the whatever that is phase.
Whatever that's going to be phase.
You know what I mean? But
The
we
next
made
frontier.
it this far, sweetheart. And
That's
there
right.
ain't too many of us have. I think of you like a sister, your family. So thanks for coming on the show. Now it's
Thanks
time
for
to play
Yay.
Which is Higher?
Digging deep and asking the question, which is higher?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like supporters.
It's pretty simple, Sean.
All right.
You know, you just have to determine which one is higher than the other one.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Just couldn't be more simple, right? All right. All right. Here we go. Ready? Number
Ready.
one.
All right.
Big ups to Momma Chan's, by the way.
Oh yeah.
What
that's
kind of runs was it? Rainbow
bomb.
runs?
Rainbow runs.
Flame.
It's very uplifting.
All right. Which is higher, Sean? The highest city in North America or the highest city in South America?
The highest city in South America.
Correct.
Yeah.
Man, dude, she's got a dial.
Oh, she's
What
very
is that?
intelligent.
Pollywog or platypus? I mean, it's like, she knows her shit. She's 4 for 4.
I'm sure it's Machu Picchu.
Nope. I think the city is it's La Paz, the capital of Bolivia.
Oh, okay.
It's almost 12,000 feet in elevation. The capital of a country, 12,000 feet.
Wow.
And Denver, Colorado, which is the highest city in North America, is 5,280 feet. But we really know which city is unofficially higher, don't we? It's Denver. It's Denver. Number 2. Which is higher? C8, the note C in the 8th octave on a standard 88-key piano, or the note that squealed from Leaf Life host Mike Ricker's mouth after getting stung 5 times while setting up audio equipment after a ground wasp nest in the forest area at Oregon Leaf's 2024 Halloween Bash.
Did you microphone that? Were you on the mic? Can we hear it? I'm sure that
It
was
went like
higher.
this.
I'm sure that was higher.
Right? He was doing it all night long. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my
That
character.
beat
My,
C8.
It was
my,
the-
my
it was the
character was an
beastings.
80s rock singer, right? I had the big bouffant wig and stuff, and I wow. But no, before I was in costume, I got stung like 5 times. Wes was there, he knows.
Oh dear.
That's
Dude,
very funny.
poor. But
all
you
he
know
has to
what? He told me something so sweet, Sean. When he saw me, he's like, AJ, this happened. And he said, the tree, because they were, okay, so he said he was screwing something into a tree, right?
I put a screw in the tree to hang the wires.
And he was like, the tree told me to fuck off and leave it alone. And it sent its bee helpers to to take me down.
Yeah. I was there with Jacob, our Oregon Leaf guy, and we both went running. He got stung like 7 times. He got stung in the ear.
Said
dear.
like a true believer, thinking
Yeah.
through the tree.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
The
beautiful.
bearded
by the way-
Lorax wasn't there to rep.
No.
Which is higher,
Happen.
Sean? Which is higher? The
Which is
C8
higher?
on the piano or Mike Ricker?
Mike Ricker.
That's
Yeah.
incorrect.
absolutely. Oh, it's
No.
The C8 on the piano should be recognized that the note that came from your host, Mike Ricker, at that moment of pain panic, tied the highest note ever sung by a human, which is a G in the high 10th octave. A world record set in 2004 by Brazilian soprano Georgia Brown, who also holds the record for the biggest vocal range of any woman ever recorded. But we
Wow.
can't quite get as high as the piano.
I see. All right. Okay.
And finally, number 3. Which is higher? Dr. Albert Hoffman, during his legendary mind-altering bicycle ride home in 1943 in Basel, Switzerland, after inventing and ingesting LSD? Or AJOG, after a full day of sampling products being showcased on the Leaf Live podcast recordings?
Oh man, are you sampling LSD, AJ?
The LSD. I would go with the LSD.
I think it's the LSD.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But let's be real, AJOG is pretty fucking baked.
Oh yeah.
Sister after my own heart.
Aw, I love it.
Sean, where can we find you on social media?
Washington Bud Company 2012 is our Instagram, and Washington Bud Company on Facebook.
Do you have
Make
one
it real
personally?
easy. Yeah, my name, SHAWN, DENAE, Eddie Wagonseller. It's kind of long, but
Jesus.
Yeah.
Sean with a W, DENAE, DENAE, Wagonseller, you can spell. What was the last word?
yeah. Well, my maiden name. I mean, I've had Facebook since Facebook started.
Yeah.
So, like,
Wow.
I put in my maiden name, and then I had to add a married name eventually.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
on the Leaf Live
Sean.
podcast.
Well, thank you guys. It's real fun to be in here.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean. You're amazing.
All righty. All right.
if you wanted
Let's
to
go smoke another bowl.
Okay.
Yay!
Hey, Wes, guess what next week's show is?
Tell me.
Rock hounding.
Ooh, I do like a good gem.
Bust out the hounds.
Download this and all Leaf Life episodes at leafmagazines.com. And please subscribe on YouTube at Leaf Life Podcast V2. Now get ready for another episode of Stony Baloney, which is also available at leafmagazines.com. And please be kind to animals.
Your hosts for Leaf Life are Mike Ricker and Wes Abney. Leaf Life is produced by Mike Daly. Some of the music heard is provided by purple-planet.com. Every bit of cannabis you use is female, so please respect the ladies. Leaf Life is brought to you by Leaf Nation, featuring Alaska Leaf, Oregon Leaf, Northwest Leaf, Maryland Leaf, Utah Leaf, Northeast Leaf, and California Leaf. On the shelf now in your local retailer. Now, please stay tuned for this week's edition of Stony Baloney by Mike Ricker.
Stony Baloney by Mike Ricker.
Sex is like baseball. To be great at America's favorite pastime, you only need to succeed 3 out of every 10 attempts. We're talking about getting hits in baseball here, not getting lucky between the sheets. However, for you men out there, the numbers are pretty much the same. For every 10 times you try, if you get action 3 out of those, you're doing better than most of your neighbors. Unless, of course, you live next to a college dormitory or a retirement community. Sorry for the visual. One reason why getting laid has been compared to hitting a home run is because it's not always easy. It takes skill and practice. I mean, if you're uncomfortable in the batter's box, getting to first base can feel very intimidating, much less advancing to second and third. And none of it matters unless you get to fourth base. That's called home plate, which is coincidental because fourth base is where babies are made. And those babies end up living at your home, endlessly screeching at an empty plate. Anyway, to effectively score and win, you need to be physically and mentally adept with good timing. You want to keep the ball in play because that's where the action is. If your swing is too erratic, you're not going to find the gap on the field. And you only get 3 strikes until you're back in the dugout watching the other players take their shot. Also, it's good to keep the pace moving because the more the game drags on, the longer it takes to get to that victory. By the way, did you know that the Major League Baseball Players Union just announced that each team can now carry 14 pitchers? There are 30 teams in the league. That means there are 420 pitchers overall. Looks like baseball is catching up with the times.
Stony Baloney. These products have intoxicating effects and may be habit-forming.
Marijuana can impair concentration, coordination, and judgment.
Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence of this drug.
There may be health risks associated with consumption of these products.
For use by adults 21 and older.
Keep out of the reach of children.